Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Kenny Brown Cars and Coffee. I'm Kenny Brown, obviously, and over the next hour or so, we're going to be talking about some really good questions you got sent in. This is sort of like a question and answer day, so if you've got questions, any questions, send them in, and I'll do the best I can to answer them because we've got some pretty good questions this week from the Speed Therapy Society group. Also, I don't know where you are, but here in Indianapolis, it's an absolutely gorgeous day, and I can't wait to get outside and enjoy it. I wish I had my car wasn't in the. I'll figure out something. I got to get outside and enjoy this day in a car somewhere. I know exactly what I'm going to do. That's another story. So anyway, welcome again. Please send in questions. This is sort of like question day, Q&A day, because some of the questions that I got this week on Speed Therapy Society, I'd like to spend a little time on, so that anyway, they're good questions. And if you have any more questions, send them in. Unfortunately, I'm here by myself this morning. Carrie is at home recuperating from a little bit of a back problem. But she's going to be here in spirit, and also she's going to be in the background. She's got a little computer set up at home, and she's going to help me with the question and answers when we get to that point. So let's see. As far as, well, I see Rory's here, Cliff's here, Calvin's here. I don't know which question to start with. Okay, I'm going to start with PT Perry's question. His question is, what is the best way to warm up a track car? That's a really good question because it's a good question because if you don't take time to get everything warmed up, you could find yourself in a bit of a pickle. So the very first thing, before you even pull out in line, get the car warmed up in the pits, up to operating temperature. You want the car operating temperature because you want the oil up at operating temperature. That's the most important thing. So get the car warmed up when it's still in the pits. When you go out on track, depends on which session of the day it is. In the morning session, the first session in the morning, I take my time, find my way around the track, see what's going on, and slowly bring your tires and brakes and yourself up to temperature, because you head out on the track, your tires are cold, your brakes are cold, you're cold. So take the first lap or so just to get everything warmed up, and then you can start playing around. Like I tell people, my first session on a Saturday morning, I spend completely working on tire temperatures, getting my tire temperature, my tire pressure set. Because once I got my tire pressures down, my car is really, really fast. But that tire temperatures and pressures is such an important part. So, I mean, it's basically the best way, just carefully. Don't go out just balls to the wall. Take your first lap at, say, 60, 70%, next lap at 80%, and then by then you should have, depending on the day and depending on the tires you've got, you should have everything warmed up and ready to go. I've seen too many times people get too excited, they forget to warm up their car, and they just get the red mist. In motorsports, we have an expression called the red mist. And it's something that kind of takes hold of people that they have no control over. And you can imagine what I mean. But I've seen it more than once. People get all jacked up. They're really ready to go. They're excited. They jump in their car, bam, they hit the gas pedal, and before you know it, the first lap, they're into the weeds or into the guardrail somewhere. So that's a good question because you really need to get everything warmed up. Remember, it's your brakes, your tires, and yourself, because you're hitting the track cold too. And always warm up your engine and get your oil up to temperature before you go out. That's the best way to save the motor. So, okay, here's Dale has another interesting question. Dale says, how about S197 pinion angle for a lowered car for street and track? Okay, that's a really good question because pinion angles are important. But when you lower a car, basically, I mean, the way the control arms are set up in the back of the car is a long and short one, and they're designed in such a way so the rear axle basically moves straight up and down, mostly straight up and down. It doesn't move around a lot. So when you lower the car, it shouldn't really change the pinion angle. But if you want to change the pinion angle of a lowered car, this is how you do it. And unfortunately, you have to pull the drive shaft out. That's the only way to do it right. The first thing you do is you check the angle of the motor. And if you've got an angle gauge, typically if the drive shaft's out, you can go right on the butt end of the output shaft of the transmission and check and see what the angle is. Typically, that's about 2.5 degrees downward, even 3 degrees downward. So if the engine angle is downward, then your pinion angle needs to be upwards. So you do the same thing. You put your angle gauge on the pinion, on the front of the pinion, and that should be opposite. If you're 2 degrees down at the engine, the axle should be 2 degrees up. So what you're looking for is kind of a zigzag. If you had them both perfectly level, then you get kind of a jump rope thing. If they're both put in the same way, you get jump rope. So to keep from getting a jump rope and massive vibrations, you just stagger them. I mean, that's the way they're engineered. So 2 degrees up, 2 degrees down, or 2 degrees down, 2 degrees up, or 3 degrees down, 3 degrees up. So it's easy to check. It's best if you do pull the drive shaft out, and so you can get right on the back of the transmission, right on the output shaft, so you know that the angle's true. Because there's other surfaces on there that might not be 100% true. So that's that. And also, we always use aluminum drive shafts in S197s, pretty much everything. On S197, they come with a two-piece drive shaft. And I mean, it's a great piece for an OE car. But, from our perspective, from performance perspective, they're heavy. They're heavy, and there's an extra joint in the middle, which can create friction. And, we just pull them out and throw them away and put in a really good, have to use a good quality aluminum drive shaft. I know there are people who use carbon drive shafts. I haven't been a fan of those, although because we've had problems in the past, but I'm sure that they've made big improvements on carbon drive shafts in the last, say, 5 years or so. But I think Paul a long time ago had a carbon drive shaft, and it didn't break. It exploded, and the biggest piece was about that big. I mean, it just vaporized. So that was probably, gosh, it had to be like 10 or 15 years ago. So I'm sure the carbon ones are better now. But either way, carbon or aluminum, it takes a lot of rotating mass out, which let the car rev freer. So pinion angle, aluminum drive shaft, and if you do aluminum drive shaft, it's really important that you get the pinion angle right, because you don't want the whole idea of that double drive shaft is reduce the vibration because the drive shaft's so long. So if that's gone, you got one piece drive shaft, you really need to make sure you got your pinion angle right. So that's actually, that was Dale's question. Okay, Andrew wants to know, do stock 4.6 3-valve engines need a baffled oil pan if I want to try autocross or tracks such as Pocono or VIR? I would say yes. We put road race oil pans on every single car that we do. It's an insurance policy. I mean, it's just what's different about a road race oil pan is the fact that they're obviously a little bigger, they hold more oil, but where the pickup is, there's little like fences all around where the pickup is with one-way trap doors. So as the car would go through a corner and the oil would slosh, it would be able to slosh into the little pickup area, but because the trap door won't slosh out. And the other way, it'll slosh in, but not slosh out. That way, you've always got oil being picked up. If you don't, I mean, there's a chance that if you don't have a good oil pan going through a corner really fast, getting the oil is kind of like going right up the side of the pan in the engine. And if your oil pump is sucking air, that's a catastrophe. I can tell you that for a fact, because you mentioned Pocono. Okay, I had a very interesting experience at Pocono a number of years ago. I was there doing a segment for Motor Week with the Red Rocket, which is my 96 Cobra, the supercharged Cobra that was a really fast car. And we blew the engine up at Pocono. And in the forensic analysis, what had happened is coming down. I mean, you come right around really fast on the oval, and then you dive down into the infield, and it's a pretty hard braking and turning. And based on what we found in the engine when we took it apart and talking to the engineers up at Ford, what happens is the oil in the stock. This is with a stock oil pan. In a stock oil pan, the oil under hard braking will slosh up to the front of the pan, and once it gets there, the timing chain becomes an extremely efficient oil pump, and it just throws all the oil out of the oil pan up in the top of the motor. So, and that's what happened. I mean, you do that a couple of times to suck air, and boom, you know, it was, the rods went out. So, yeah, at Road Race Oil Pan, we use the Cantons, had really good luck with them. I don't know if we've got one on the website right now. I asked Brad to put one up. I think they're the Road Race Oil Pan for a 4.6. I think it's around $420. I mean, it's a lot cheaper than a motor. And that way you've got insurance that you're going to have oil pressure. So, yeah, I'd strongly recommend anybody that does a lot of track days, I strongly recommend a Road Race Oil Pan. It's just insurance. You know, it's a cheap insurance policy. So, okay, that's for the oil pan. And then I'm sure that if you check in a day or so that we'll have that up on the website. And if not, just call it to Rich. We can get you fixed up. Another thing, when you change oil pans on any of the modular motors, on the brand new cars, because we do a lot of like brand new cars, we'll reuse the oil pan gasket because it's pretty fresh. But something like a 3.6 on a 4.6, you need to get a fresh oil pan gasket. And they're kind of like the big one-piece thing, and it's just another good insurance. I mean, there's nothing worse than spending all the time to put a good oil pan on, not change the gasket, and then find yourself you got a little oil leak. So you always want to get an oil pan gasket when you change the oil pan too. Okay, Hirschberg's got a couple here. It's first. I got to read the first one. The first one's kind of big. If you're just joining us, I'm Kenny Brown. This is Cars and Coffee. This is kind of Q&A day, so please, if you've got questions, send them in. I'll do the best I can to answer them. Right now, we're answering questions from the Speed Therapy Society website and Kenny Brown Performance website. So send your cards and letters in. So this is kind of a long one, so I'm going to read it to you. So this is Hirschberg. He's in Bulgaria. He was one of our Speed Therapy Academy guys, and he got up at 2 o'clock every morning to attend the academy in the first session. Okay, so he says, I went to the track on Friday the 5th. However, for some reason, my car looks like it's down on power on the straight. I only reached 171.9 kilometers, which is 107 miles an hour. And the temperature was 22 Celsius, which is 72 Fahrenheit. And back in November, he reached 179, which is 110 miles an hour. And the air temperature was 11 Celsius, which is 52 degrees. So, I mean, there's a big difference in temperature. 52 to 72 is 20 degrees temperature. And he's missing like, 3 miles an hour? I mean, it's not a lot. He said, I did reach 179 in my first session on Friday, but after the temps went down. Also, before one of the sessions, the car was rough idle and even shut down. I guess something overheated, but I didn't see any error codes, and the cylinder head temperature never got north of 235. It was also the first time he'd driven on track with race mode, and race mode not as usual sport mode. So maybe he overloaded the traction lock diff. No, you wouldn't overload the traction lock diff. That's kind of a whole different territory. Cars do funny things, and if it ran idle and shut down, first thing I do is make sure that all the vacuum lines are connected and something didn't come off, because a vacuum leak, pre-throttle body, even in the intake manifold, can really throw everything askew. Sometimes, everything just kind of wasn't happy. I'm sure that if you shut it down and turn it up and start it up again, it'll be good. But as far as the speed, I mean, I tell people every track, every day, every driver, every car is different. I'm going to give you a really good example. And to me, I think it's a difference in temperature. It's kind of a weird trade-off, because when it's cooler, air is denser and you're making more power. In the same token, the air is denser, the molecules together, it takes more power to push through the air. So it's kind of a trade-off, but usually it's the cooler temperatures is more favored of making power. than as far as airflow over the car. But I mean, it's 3 miles an hour difference down from 52 degrees to 72 degrees. I'll give you a good example, a first-hand experience. When we were doing the Saline program, this is in '87, we were at Brainerd. And we did the normal, Thursdays, Promoters Day, which we do all our testing. And we got the cars pretty. I mean, we spent the whole day, got all the cars pretty much dialed in. And so the next morning, Friday, in the first practice session, I mean, we were off by maybe a second and a half. I mean, it was pretty noticeable, at least a second and a half. And Steve was just going ballistic. I mean, he just wanted to know what happened. He was just going crazy. And, I said, got him settled down. I went up and I got the timing sheets for the session. And I held it up and put it in his face. I said, take a look. And everybody else was down at least 2 seconds. We were only down a second and a half. So all of a sudden he calmed down and went away. So the thing is, day to day, there's that much different track. It was like a second and a half difference between Thursday and Friday. So, I mean, 3 miles an hour between 52-degree day and a 72-degree day, I don't think there's a big issue. Certainly you can plug in and have a scanner run through the motor and see if anything's amiss. But I don't see where that's kind of a very big problem. So, as far as the idle, that's just probably a one-time thing. I'm guessing that after you started it up, it ran good. So that's kind of that. And as far as the load on the traction lock dip, if it's cool, if it's running cool, if it's not overheating, it's not a problem. I would keep an eye out though for overheating light, because IRS cars will overheat the diffs pretty readily. Because there's nowhere for the heat to go. In a live axle, you got this great big huge chunk and massive steel in the tubes and everything that absorb heat and put heat off. Well, in an IRS, you got this little teeny aluminum pumpkin, and it's mounted in rubber, so there's no place for the heat to go, because the differential and traction will create a lot of heat. The torsons, there's a lot of gears, and they're making friction and making heat. And in the clutch type of differential, they're making heat. So there's a lot of heat that gets generated in a differential that needs to go someplace. The live axle kind of gets spread out. Although I will say for track days, we really don't worry about cooling the differential. It's really like 20-minute sessions. But for a race car, World Challenge cars, absolutely, you have to have a diff cooler in the back. Because we run the piss out of those cars for 45, 50 minutes straight, and it gets hot, so we need to cool that. We also put a cooler on the transmission. So, but in on an IRS car, you can overheat that diff pretty quickly. And I think on the newer ones, you can actually get they got a temperature probe in there, and they throw a light on the dash. The differential's hot. So I don't think it's a differential. I think it's just a difference in 3 degrees. Or 20 degrees difference in 3 miles an hour. I don't see that as a big thing. Now, Hertzfer has another question. It's another really good question. He says, what is my opinion on octane boosters? Okay, well, first of all, I don't use them and haven't for years. And, my first question is, why do you think about using octane booster? Now remember, when we talk about track cars or race cars, if we're going to do something different, we're going to make a change, but we're making a change because we're looking for a specific outlook. So if you're looking for a specific outlook, what's the purpose of the octane booster? Because the systems are pretty much, they run themselves as far as the engine management. And they'll figure out if it's, what octane it is, and it'll adjust the timing accordingly. The only time I would see that somebody would even think about something like an octane boost would be if it's a turbocharged motor, supercharged motor, and they're not sure the quality of the gas. That being said, I've heard a lot of mixed reports over the years on additives. I mean, marketing is marketing, advertising is advertising. They're trying to sell product, and like I say, I've heard mixed results. I think the one I've heard that maybe is pretty good starts with T, like torque or something like that. I can't remember. But when you ask that question, I remember something that I read, and I spent a little time, more time than I wanted to yesterday, trying to find a little article that I found that I read on specifically on additives, performance additives. And it was written by somebody at Sunoco. And okay, fingers crossed, I'm going to try to bring this document up. We've practiced it. And okay, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. Okay, fuel tips. What's really in the additive? Now, this is by somebody at Sunoco. And, you know, when I don't use octane boosters, I just go get better gas. You know, Sunoco's got a really nice selection of race gases. I think the GT is what we use. I think it's like 98 octane unleaded, and that seems to work for everything. We use that in Roy's car, which actually has it's a Daytona prototype engine, so it's running a lot of compression, and but that gas seems to work really good for everything. Anyway, here's what he says. How do you know it's really in fuel additives at every auto parts store? Read the safety data sheet, easily found online. Section 3 will list the product composition. And we took a deeper look at a popular fuel treatment aimed at the enthusiast market. That's one of probably many. And the promise was too hard to ignore: increased power, more torque, cleaner injectors, reduced emissions. 16-ounce bottle was $11. Treat 1 tank of gas. The SDS, that's the data, or it's up here somewhere. Safety data sheet says the product's main ingredient listed to range from 2/3 to 3/4 is a blend of aphatic and aromatic hydrocarbons C2 to C20. Sounds exotic. He said that's gasoline. Most likely being used as a solvent for the additive. This ingredient is fluff. Nothing special about the gasoline to help treat fuel. The fuel additive under our virtual microscope also contains 20% to 30% 3-oxo-1-hepatol, another exotic sounding compound. Quick research in the CAS number, specific codes assigned to every chemical substance reveals that it's just a relatively non-volatile, inexpensive solvent, also known as butaoxyethylene or butyl glycol. An 8-ounce jug, roughly a gallon, retails for about $20. The final ingredient listed comprises of no more than 5% in a 16-ounce can, glycerized mixed. I'm killing these words, but that's okay. Octanol. The CAS number quickly reveals that the composition in question, the glycerides, are fatty acid chains that are used in many consumer products, including soaps and cosmetics. He also explained that it's likely used here as an emulsifier that allows the polar and non-polar chemicals to stay mixed together. It also helps keep dirt suspended in the solution. So, you know, do the math. $11 fuel additive contains about 20 cents worth of gasoline and 75 cents worth of a common industrial solvent. Then less than an ounce of an emulsifier. And then his thing is, or you could just buy decent race gas. So there. I made a PDF of that. I'm gonna have Brad post that up in the resource section for the Speed Therapy Society. So I mean, I guess the moral of the story is, if you're looking at additive, research, see what's in it, see if it really does something. I know at one point a lot of the so-called additives have like diesel in them, just to make the gas heavier. The thing about octane is like when you've got like a high compression engine, and you use like regular gas is like 87 octane. If you've got a high compression engine and you're running 87 octane, what's going to happen is it's going to, under compression, gonna fire early. It's, you know, detonation. It's firing before the gas is exploding before the spark goes off. That's called detonation. And what happens is they have, you know, lead used to be in gas. It's a heavy metal to slow down the burn, so you get the full compression before it explodes. So in a lot of cases, I mean, like years and years ago, there was like mostly diesel in like the gas treatment, because, you know, it's a heavier solvent, and it would slow down the burn, so you don't get pre-ignition from the not enough octane. So I mean, the moral of the story, I mean, I rather than using an octane booster, I find some place that has some decent race gas, and it wouldn't take a lot of race gas mixed with a regular gas to increase the octane. But like I say, I mean, you need to be looking for a specific outcome. I mean, if you are like on the dyno tuning and you wanted to, you know, put more timing in, you might run a higher octane gas and then tune it to that gas. But aside from just putting an octane booster in a car that's not supercharged, you know, I don't know that there's a lot of value to that. And as you can see from an expert, it could be more fluff than really good stuff. Okay, well, I think. Oh my God, Carrie isn't here, but I got notes. Let's see, we're on. Let's see, some thumbs up. You know, Cars of Coffee on. Let's see. No, she's not here to tell me. Thumbs up on Facebook, and also on YouTube. Likes, thumbs up.
Oh, you are just blowing that, Ken.
Well, you're not here.
Yeah, well, so if you like what you're hearing, if you want to give Kenny some thumbs up on Facebook, and also if you're, we are also simulcasting live on YouTube on the Kenny Brown Performance TV channel. So subscribe to our channel and click the bell if you'd like to get a reminder every week when Kenny is live.
Well, there we have it. Even though she's not here, she's still here. So that's the questions I had written down so far. So Carrie, have we got any questions that have come in?
We sure do. And did you answer the one on the, I can't remember. I think there's one question that you missed.
Well, there's a first speed thing. There's the octane booster. PT Perry wanted to know how to properly warm up a track car. Dale wanted to know about the pinion angle, and Andrew wanted to know about the oil pan. Okay,
that's it. I must have missed the pinion angle one. Okay, so
I got you.
You sure did. Here's our first question. Jason Rowe, what is a good way to find out what tire pressure is needed for your car? I see people with chalk marks on their tires.
Okay, you see anybody put chalk marks on their tires? Turn away. Turn away and walk away. They have no idea what they're doing. Tire pressure is really, really important. And this is for a track day or anything else. The only way to do it is to get a barometer. And as luck would have it, I've always got one handy because we talk about tire temp pressures a lot. You need to get yourself a barometer. I'll get this plugged in. Okay, you need to have one that's got a, if you can see the little probe. It's itsy bitsy teeny little probe. There it is. Because what you want to do is we want to get, this is one we use because I like these because the numbers are really big and easy to read, even in the sun. The only way to really do it is you want to check your tire temperatures. And that's you take the probe and you stick an inch in from the outside, in the middle, and an inch in from the inside. And just briefly, what you're looking for is to balance that those temperatures all the way across. If the middle is higher than the other two, then there's too much air. If the middle is lower, there's not enough air. But you're never going to get even across. Like on the fronts, they'll never be the same. So let's say you got 120 degrees on the outside, 100 degrees on the inside, you want 110 in the middle. That's the best way that's the only way to adjust your tire pressure. As far as starting pressures on my car, with the Pirelli PCR courses. I typically would start, depending on the day, and I kind of make my mind up the day, anywhere between like 32, 33 front and 28 or 29 rear. And then in the first session, we work on the temperatures and get the tires bled down. I like to start a little bit higher. It's easier to take air out in the pit lane than just to put air in. But I'll make maybe even 2 stops during the first session to do the tire pressures real quick. So, because once I get them done, it's the way to go. So, I mean, and don't, that whole chalk thing, all that tells you is if the tire's rolling over, eating up the chalk. It doesn't tell you what's happening on the middle and the inside of the tire. I don't know who came up with that, but everybody thinks it's pretty clever, and it tells you nothing. I mean, here's the thing: they might be putting air in if they're hitting on the chalk mark. They might be putting air in, so it won't go in the chalk mark. When in reality, they don't have enough camber in the car. So I mean, I can't tell you anything. I mean, once you get your tire temperatures and your pressures, that's the only way to do it. And we can certainly fix you up with the stuff, including tire temperature sheets. I don't know if I've got one up here or not. I do. We've got these little handy dandy tire temperature sheets that we can get you fixed up with too. And if you want to know more, just set up a 15-minute consult. I mean, I do these 50-minute consults to help people with tech questions that might be a little more difficult to answer in Cars and Coffee. So if you want to know more, set up a 15-minute and I'll talk through it in more detail to help you get your tire pressures. Okay, who's next?
Okay, so again, Kenny's answering questions live, so make sure you get your questions in. This is our next question, and it's from Kobe Ward, and I'll take this down after we read it. So Kobe Ward says, 2 weeks ago, you mentioned that you removed the rear bump stops and bump stop brackets on your S197s and rely on the bump stops and the coilover shocks. If you're not running coilovers, what do you recommend to do with the rear bump stops? I have mine trimmed down to about 1 inch.
Okay, it depends on how much spring you're running in the back and what your ride height is. The reason that I take them off is that what happens is when the car gets to a certain amount of roll, and if that bump stop makes contact with the frame, no matter what size it is, if it makes contact with the frame, if you got soft springs, it's going to make contact. As soon as it makes contact with the springs, you have no suspension. Your suspension ceases to exist. And what happens is the car gets loose. It'll get loose in a bad way. It's called snap oversteer. So, I mean, if you're not getting onto them, I mean, the best way to do it is just, how could you do that? See if you're getting onto, I think you probably could just maybe put some, I know what you could do. You could put some white paint on the frame. And if you see witness marks of that bump stop hitting the frame, get rid of them. Because we run pretty good spring rates, on all of our track cars. And so I not only, take the bump stop off, but there's the bracket that it sits on a little bit hangs off the back of the axle. It sticks out a little bit. We whack that off too. So no chance of it coming up and hitting the frame. But that's my recommendation. If you're running, if you hit that bump stop, I mean, you're gone. You get snap oversteer, which is never a good thing. But you can kind of do some, put some paint or something on there to see if it's hitting, and if it is, just get rid of it. And if you're a little unsure about that, you can always get some extra bump rubbers for your shocks. I mean, they're easily accessible. You can buy them just about anywhere, and they would be a softer compression than hitting on the bump stop on the axle. Okay, who's next?
Okay, so if anybody, that was it for the questions. So if there's a last call for questions, so if you have any questions, please post them right now. Also, I wanted to just recommend that we are going to be doing a couple evening workshops in the next month or so, and I just want to kind of put this in the back of your head. We'll be doing an S197 workshop on suspension workshop, and we will be doing another IRS SN95 IRS / Fox body conversion workshop. Those are about 2 hours long, and they'll be in the middle of the month on a Wednesday. So I will we'll let you know a little bit more about that. Kenny, I bet this is the first time you've heard about this.
I was going to just say, this is news to me. I guess I got to put this in the back of my brain. What a surprise.
Oh, I loved surprising you. So anyway, we're gonna wait a little minute for some questions, because Facebook is runs a little bit behind the live that Kenny's on. It's about 30 seconds behind. So we will wait a minute or two. The other thing we're working on is we're in our 4th week coming up of the Speed Therapy Academy, and this week is suspension, and we're going to start going into
geometry.
Yeah,
this is a good one. That Tuesday's going to be a really good one.
Yeah.
Well, last Tuesday was good. We still got into suspension. Well, the week before we talked about types of suspension theory. Then we started talking about the geometry thing. What is geometry, front and rear, and how do you calculate it? Now this Tuesday is the secret stuff that you can't download the PowerPoint from this Tuesday, because it's pretty good stuff.
Yeah, you're going to share your secret sauce. So anyway, that's what's happening.
Not all of it. You got to hold some back.
So anyway, let me check to see if there's any questions coming through. No, we do not have any other questions. I guess everybody knows everything they need to know at this point. So, Kenny, do you want to? Oh, wait. We did go one. Looks like Jim Flattery. Oh, he said the video and sounds gets interrupted regarding the bump stop. He says, so if the car, here, I'll put this here. So if the car has a JRZ coilover, should he remove the bump stop?
Oh, yeah, throw it away. Absolutely. Yeah, because you're running plenty of spring right back there, but you don't want, just in case, you don't want it to get on there. Yeah, throw it away. And you could even, if you're crafty, you could even cut that little bit back off, the little part that sticks out, because that's the next thing you would hit max with if you hit a really big bump. So, yep, we never put, every single car we do it did not have any bump stops when it leaves. We used to, shave them down, but then it just, a couple guys got snap oversteer and then throwing them away. So, because it gives you an extra half-inch of travel or so.
Okay. Here's the next question. Angie, hi, Angie. Angie has a question. Kenny, do you have anything for late model all-wheel drive SHO Tauruses? Also, what would you suggest for miles oil changes on a twin turbo car?
Unfortunately, I don't have anything. I'd love to drive one. But as far as, oil changes on twin turbo car, I mean, you're running a lot of heat. You're going to want to run, obviously, good synthetic oil. It just kind of depends on how hard you're running it. And, daily driver, you can pretty much follow what the factory recommendation is. But if you're doing track days with it, I think maybe after 2 or 3 track days, I'd change the oil because you're going to be running it high pressure, high temperature. And, oil's cheap, engines are expensive. So, but no, I mean, the new all-wheel drive Taurus is pretty cool. We used to work a long time ago. We did some zip-up stuff for the original Tauruses when they had the Yamaha engine in it, maybe 4-valve. We did some suspensions and brakes. We did all kinds of cool stuff. But haven't looked at the new ones yet. I mean, if somebody brought one in, I'd certainly take a look at it and try to figure out if anything can be done. There always can be something done. But nope, not yet. But if you're driving the car hard on track days, I would say every two or three events, I'd go ahead and change the oil, just because heat is a killer. Okay. Cliff says, if the car is tuned to a specific octane of gas, does that mean that the octane has to be used in the car? Oh, yes. Either that or higher. Because what happens if it's tuned to, like, say, out here it's 93, I think in the West it's 91. If you got a car that's tuned to 93 octane and you were to put like 87 in, then there's a really good chance that it's going to be too much timing and you're going to pick up pre-detonation. So, I mean, it's once the car is tuned to a specific octane, you can go higher, but never lower. Now, if it's tuned to 91 octane and you can get 93 or 94, no problem. You know, that's going up doesn't hurt, going down does. Okay. Okay, Chris says for supercharged car, 98 octane is fine. Yep, that's right. He's got a GT500, really cool GT500, and you can look in your local. I was going to say phone book. You don't do it anymore, but you can look online for local Sunoco or VP outlet, and they've got unleaded. If you've got a supercharged car, I mean I strongly recommend high octane supercharged cars on track, just because of the heat. You know, the more heat, the more chances there are for pre-ignition. So, yeah, we can just, look for Sunoco or VP, and both of them have like a 90. I think the Sunoco is something GT, and it's like 98 unleaded. VP, I can't remember what their numbers are, but we use VP in World Challenge. They've got something in the same range. But, yeah, I strongly recommend supercharged, turbocharged. It does not hurt to up the octane. It's just, again, insurance against pre-ignition, especially on a hot day. So, okay, have we got anything else?
Yep, we have a number of questions here. So, Kobe Ward, do the Coney Yellows have internal bump stops?
No, they got a bump stop on the outside, I'm pretty sure. I mean, it's been a long time since I worked with Coney. We used to use Coney Yellows like a lot back in the 90s. We couldn't get anything else. If you're talking about the rears, what you can do is you can take the rear shock. If you talk about the rear, push it all the way down and see what the length is. Okay, then put it in the car and then jack the axle up as far as it'll go. And if that number, and then measure again, if that number is longer than the, it's shorter than the expanded number, then you're fine. The other thing you can do is take a little zip tie and put it on the shaft of the shock. You put it down at the very bottom. And what's going to happen as the car works, that's going to work up. And you'll be able to see exactly how much travel there is on that shock absorber. So, I mean, most of them have, gosh, it's been so long since I used Coney Yellows. But it is a great shock. You know, I recommend it if it's more of a street car and not a dedicated track car, Coney Yellows. But we've got actually, it's for 197s. If you put Coney Yellows on, we actually have a kind of okay spring setup. It's like a 325 front, which is about as high as you can get for off-the-shelf type shocks. But you couldn't use that on a standard shock because it overwhelmed the rebound. But yeah, that's kind of like a lot of answers rolled into one. So, we got anything else, Carrie?
Yeah, we have another question. And again, this is a last call for any questions. And we will answer this next one. And Kenny, you might get out of here early. You might be able to come home and do dishes and do laundry.
Yeah, Carrie's been like in bed for the last 2 weeks. So yeah, one of my chores today when I go home, I have to do laundry and clean the kitchen. And I'm sure she'll come up, plus run back and forth, bringing her water and snacks and, Mr. Housemaid and nursemaid all wrapped into one. Okay,
although I am getting better. Okay, here we go. Here's for Nathan. Is it more advantageous to use a larger, taller ball joint or raise the inner pivot point of control arm for roll center and camber curve when lowering ride height?
That's a really good question. And if you're in the academy, you learn an awful lot about exactly what you're talking about. But here's the thing: when you lower a car, I won't get into there's like a formula and it's geometry. You make a whole lot of lines and triangles and stuff to get the roll center. When you lower a car, the roll center will go down. The roll center is the point that the car wants to roll around. And it's a geometric point that the car wants to roll around. If it's high, the car rolls around like a wagon. If it's low, it rolls around like a race car. It doesn't roll. So that's why we always, in like 197 suspensions, we bring the front roll center up because when you lower the front of a Mustang, the roll center gets really low, like sometimes underground. And the back roll center on a stock Mustang is where the panel bar crosses the center line of the car, and that's right in the middle of the axle. So you connect the dots. One roll center is real high, one roll center is real low. So going around the corner, you go around the corner, the car is going to roll up in the back and down the front. Which if you drive around a corner hard in a stock Mustang, you feel the inside tire get light in the back, and all of a sudden the front will start to push because it's getting overwhelmed. So we want to bring the roll center up. The easiest way to do that is to get an extended shaft ball joint. I mean, that makes it a little easier because what happens is, you lower the car and say the controller, and since this is the ball joint out here and this is the chassis right here, as you lower the car, then this is pointing down. So when we put a longer ball joint in, we sort of try to level it out. This is just in theory. You could raise the inner pickup points. That's a lot harder than using a ball joint. We've got extended ball joints for both S197s and SA95s. And on the 550 cars, I mean, that's pretty good. I wouldn't mess with the 550 cars. They work pretty good as they are. So yeah, extended ball joint. I'd strongly recommend extended ball joint. Any car that's lowered, Mustang is lowered because that helps bring the front whole center up, which is too low to start with. So if you really want to make your car handle, my AGS 4.0 suspension system, there's only 3 components: rear grip kit, front grip kit, springs, and shocks. And the reason for that is everything is engineered as a system. In the back, every single component is engineered specifically to contribute positively to improving the rear geometry. And if you talk to anybody that's put on the rear grip kit on a Mustang, they'll attest to that. And the front grip kit's the same, meaning the control arms and the K member are engineered specifically to work together. So yeah, we build parts, but we sell systems because there's nothing worse than if you get your shocks here, your springs there, your panel bar there, your brackets there. You've got kind of a mishmash of products, which means you're on your own R&D program to see how that works together. Well, the way I come up, that's why we do systems, is no hassle, no work. You bolt the stuff on and go. I've done all the engineering, all the testing. So, but yeah, back to the answer question, ball joint is easier. And if you want to talk more about that, again, set up a 15-minute consult. I'll be happy to talk to you about it.
And we do offer them on the kennybrown.com website too. So they're available for you there. I have a quick question, a little comment from Mark Hassenberg. Kenny, you don't need to feel bad. I get to clean the house.
Okay, well, yeah, I guess we're in the same boat.
So anyway, Mark's a good friend of ours.
You got to do what you got to do. It's that saying, happy wife, happy life is very, very true. So.
But Mark, I think you get a trade-off of probably a really good dinner from Heather. So it might be worth a trade-off. Okay,
I clean the house and I cook. So.
Well, right now.
Yeah.
I
normally cook anyway. I normally do Carrie does the cleaning and laundry, and I do the shopping and cooking. So it works out pretty good.
Which is wonderful, and he's an incredible cook. So I'm fed well. Okay, here is Chris Melatu has another question. What setting do you put your washers on for delicate? I'm sorry, Chris. I didn't read the question before. He's asking you that, Kit.
I just turn the button. There's a little knob. You kind of can turn it from here to there. And right now, I just got it set in the middle because that seems like the place to be. But I know that if you turn it down, it's something to do with delicates. I do have to use different soap.
Oh, Chris, when I read the word washer, I was thinking like a washer on a nut and bolt. So that was good. So here's another one from Calvin. I've heard you mention to remove the rear sway bar when running a padded bar. Does this still apply to the Fox body?
No, we remove the rear sway bar when we use our rear grip kit. Okay, because the geometry that's in, I fix everything in the back with geometry. So the geometry that's in there, if you put a rear sway bar on, you increase the roll stiffness, which just throws everything out the window and the car gets loose. So that's why we throw the way. On a panner bar and roll bar work in 2 different ways. The panner bar centers the axle. Now, we used to do a panner bar on the SN95 and Fox cars, but they're a double splayed rear control arms, which means it's self-centering. We didn't use the panner bar to center the axle. We used the panner bar to bring the roll center down because actually we went over this in Tuesday night in the academy that the roll center of the back of a SN95 and Fox Mustang is like really high. It's above the axle. So we use the panner bar to bring that down below, down to the bottom of the differential. No, the panner bar and sway bar do two different functions. For the GT4 rear grip kit, we just throw it away because we don't need it. But anything else, you probably need a sway bar. Okay.
I think that's it. And Cliff added a nice little comment. So he said, I'm not supposed to worry you out too much. So,
yeah, we have that chance of that. So I've got a question for Chris Mellitu, if you're out there. We need to have an idea for the seat in your car, your height, whether you're long torso, short torso, long legs, short legs. So you're not here to do a seat fitment. So we want to try to get it right the way the seat is right now. I'm only like 5'8", and I get with the seat all the way up. I sit pretty low, but Kurt is like a big guy, and it's perfect for him. So you need to get an idea of your build, height, and that sort of thing, so we can work on getting the seat set up. So,
and that is it.
Okay.
So good session, Kenny.
Well, yeah, we will wrap up for today. Remember, send your questions in the Speed Therapy Society if you think of something during the week. Also, I'm available for the 15-minute consults. If you got questions, you want to learn about something, you got a tech question, you want to set up a build plan, what to do, what first, what second, I'm available. And even like all our guys that run coilovers, I'm available to help do adjustments. The first thing I ask is, if you've got one of our cars and you're on track, or one of our suspensions are on track, and you've got it's doing something, first thing I'm going to ask for is going to be tire temperatures. And because once I know that the tire pressures and temperatures are right, then we do adjustments. I never make an adjustment on a car until I get the pressure set, because I know that once the pressures are set, then that's the time to make adjustments. Because, if you got too much air and the front end's pushing, somebody might want to start changing shock adjustments when it's really tires. So, okay, with that, I think we'll wrap up for the day. Like I say, it's a gorgeous day here, and I'm going to enjoy it on my way home. Then I'm going to do laundry and clean the house.
Oh, but one thing. Remember to get my Godiva chocolates. I'm binge watching a series this afternoon. So.
That's not going to happen.
Okay.
So
have fun, guys.
Okay, we appreciate you joining us today, and I guess we'll see you next week. I see a whole bunch of things going on over there. I don't know what's happening, but I got the side of my screen's moving. Whoa, it keeps moving again. Okay. Well, no more questions. Then I guess we're going to wrap up for the day. So we're going to go out. I'm going to go out and enjoy the day. I know what I'll do. I'll open the windows. Open the windows, all the windows up while I'm doing the wash. That should give me some outdoor stuff. So listen, we'll see you all next week. Thanks for joining me. Again, send your questions in, or subjects. If you want me to talk about a specific subject, send the in. We're always looking for ideas for Cars and Coffee on subjects for me to talk about. So with that, I'll say good day, and everybody have a good time.